and he's from the Cornwall Alliance, and David Barton of Wall Builders. All right, I want to spend one more segment here on what's being done. This is the Story of Stuff Green Faith Project, and it's going into your churches and your synagogues. Watch for it carefully. Some of it sounds great. Some of it is, you know, it's truth mixed with evil stuff, to be real frank with you. I want to spend a break here talking about how scientists see the world differently than those who believe in God and what it leads to. Yeah. And then when we come back, I want to give you action plan. What do you do about it? What do you do? Go ahead.
Well, one of the things with scientists, I was called to the U.S. Senate to testify on global warming. I'm one of the experts on that kind of stuff.
All right.
So in that, I can look at scientific data and reach a totally different conclusion than other guys can. We look at the same piece of data. A lot of it is explained right here. The clash between religion and science. Only 9.7% of scientists actually is convinced there's a God. And that's exactly opposite of the American population. So they come up with a piece of data. Their philosophy says, oh, there's no God, so it can't involve that. So they come up with an interpretation of data. I can look at the same data, come up with a different interpretation because I got a different paradigm on it. And that's why, and going back to this grid work where the earth is supreme in their view and man is the least important, as we were talking about the thing, because at that time you have the Kyoto Protocol they're trying to adopt in the Senate, and they went to Copenhagen to reaffirm that, and basically a 40-year plan. And what they're saying is we need to spend $200 billion a year in America, and that will prepare us for the protocol. And we said, you know, for $200 billion a year, you can buy clean water in every third world nation in the world and save tens of millions of lives from dysentery. They said, no, we cover about lives. We got to save the planet. So for the same amount of money, we can save millions of lives.
This environmental movement is really anti-human. In many ways, really anti-human. Because if you look at that scale, if man is down at the bottom, all you see is man hurting things. Man is always responsible for awful things, now including hurricanes.
Yeah. Well, it's apparent. I mean, ask Michael Vick what happens if you fight with dog. He'll go to jail. But then do something with, as Cal said, where we have babies who live through an abortion and are alive, and they will.
Oh, I know. And they're put into a room.
We won't do anything with exactly. Yeah. We won't do anything with them. But you fight dogs, and we'll throw you in jail.
In a religious hospital. Let that happen.
Yeah.
In a religious hospital. And whose religious hospital? Jeremiah Wright's religious hospital.
But that's that secular religious paradigm,
right.
And what they want us to do is live in fear. Their viewpoint says, oh my gosh, you're creating everything, you're messing everything up, you've got to curtail yourself. Our religious viewpoint gives us confidence. We say, no, that's not the way we live.
Right, but we are, again, I want to make sure it's clear, at least I believe, that we do screw things up.
We do.
But we get, I believe in Jefferson, man will get it right.
That's right.
We're very good at solving problems.
That's right.
Yes.
We make mistakes, but then we can later solve them. Let me give you one concrete example of how a scientist's religious faith led him to interpret data in a very different way from the unbelievers. Dr. Roy Spencer is a climatologist, senior research scientist at the University of Alabama, a good friend of mine as well, and you know him. Roy has been not only in charge of NASA's satellite remote temperature sensing program, but he's also been specializing in cloud research for some 20 years and more. And he believes that God designed the climate system to be robust, self-regulating, self-correcting, the exact opposite of the assumption behind the atheists who think that it all was the result of chance, and therefore it's fragile and it'll be knocked into catastrophe by nothing.
That's right.
As he looked at the data, he thought to himself, I wonder if the assumption that clouds are a positive feedback on warming, in other words, if you get a little warming down at the Earth's surface, the clouds make even more warming, and that assumption drives all of the catastrophe ideas of the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and so on. I wonder if we might be able to see that clouds do something different if I look at the data differently. That's what he did in a number of different experiments, and he found that, in fact, clouds are a negative feedback. That is, you get a little warming on the surface, clouds respond to reduce that warming instead of increasing it. So instead of getting a runaway feedback effect that leads to a tipping point and catastrophe, you get a self-regulating, it's like the thermostat in your home.
It's really an amazing thing, and you never heard that, ever, heard that in the news or, God forbid, in our
that's because these guys are not religious.
Praise God for that.
Okay, back in just a second on what you can do, what you should do.